The wind screamed through the old barn, rattling the rusty chains as thunder rolled across the Texas sky. Lily Sanders pressed her back against the cold metal bars of the cage, her hands trembling over her swollen belly. 7 months pregnant, barefoot and bruised, she whispered to the tiny life inside her, "Hold on, baby. Mommy's right here." The dim bulb above her flickered. From the far corner came a growl, low, deep, and hungry. A mangy dog with foam dripping from its mouth pulled against its leash, its bloodshot eyes locked on her. Mark had called it a lesson. Hours earlier, her husband Mark Sanders had returned home reeking of alcohol and rage. His tie hung loose, his eyes wild. "You think I don't see it, Lily?" he screamed. "You've been smiling at that rich widower next door, haven't you?" she tried to explain. Ethan Moore was just a customer, a kind man who'd ordered curtains for his guest house. But Mark wouldn't listen. Before she could reach the door, he'd grabbed her by the wrist, dragged her outside, and shoved her into the old barn. The dog barked furiously. "Let's see if your lover comes to save you," Mark sneered, locking the cage. "Maybe he'll like you better with scars." Then he left, the sound of his truck disappearing into the rain. Now Lily sat shivering in the dark, the smell of rust and blood thick in the air. The dog snapped, inches from her bare feet. Tears streamed down her face as she prayed for dawn. Out beyond the fields, lightning flashed, illuminating the silhouette of a man on horseback. Ethan Moore had seen the broken barn light flicker from his property line. He frowned, sensing something was wrong. Since his wife's death 3 years ago, he rarely ventured out at night, but tonight something felt urgent. He rode closer, the horse's hooves splashing through puddles. As he neared the fence, he thought he heard a faint cry, a woman's voice, muffled, desperate. He dismounted, heart pounding, and moved toward the sound. Inside the barn, Lily's strength was fading. Her lips quivered, her breath shallow. "Please, someone," she whispered. The dog lunged again, straining against its chain. She closed her eyes, expecting the end, when suddenly headlights swept across the walls. The barn door creaked open. A tall figure stepped into the light, rain dripping from his coat. Ethan's eyes widened as he saw the cage and the terrified woman inside. "Dear God," he gasped. "Lily?" She could barely speak. "Please, help me." Ethan dropped to his knees, fumbling with the padlock, his hands shaking. The dog snarled, barking wildly. He glanced at the creature, then at the woman he barely knew but somehow felt bound to protect. He realized the truth. This wasn't an accident. Someone had meant for her to die here. Outside, another pair of headlights turned into the driveway. Tires screeched. A familiar shadow stepped out of the truck, holding something metallic that glinted in the lightning. And when the thunder roared again, Ethan turned, face to face with Mark Sanders. The rain poured harder, drumming on the tin roof like gunfire. Ethan stood frozen for a heartbeat as Mark stepped into the barn doorway, his soaked jacket clinging to his broad shoulders. The man's eyes gleamed with madness. "Well, look who decided to play hero," Mark hissed, waving the crowbar in his hand. "Didn't I tell you to stay off my property more?" Ethan straightened, shielding Lily with his body. "She's hurt, Mark. She needs a hospital." His calm voice only seemed to provoke Mark further. "A hospital?" Mark laughed bitterly. "You think she deserves that after what she's done? After sneaking behind my back with you?" Lily shook her head weakly. "That's not true. Please, Mark." Her words only fueled his anger. He swung the crowbar, missing Ethan by inches as it slammed into the cage, sparks flying. The dog barked furiously, lunging toward the bars. Ethan took a step forward, fists clenched. "Enough," he said, his tone low but commanding. "You're going to kill her." Mark smirked, his face twisted with hate. "That's the idea." For a tense moment, only the rain and thunder filled the space. Then Ethan lunged, grabbing the crowbar. The two men struggled, slipping on the wet floor, the metal clanging between them. The dog went wild, pulling its chain free from the wall. Lily screamed, "Ethan, look out!" The animal charged, snapping at anything that moved. Ethan shoved Mark aside just in time. The crowbar flew from his hands and clattered into the corner. Ethan grabbed a nearby tarp and swung it toward the dog, trying to keep it back. The creature snarled, teeth tearing through fabric. Mark crawled toward the fallen crowbar, his face contorted with rage. "You think you can take my wife? My life?" he shouted. Ethan didn't answer. His only thought was to reach Lily. He kicked a bucket toward the dog, buying a second to rush to the cage. His hands shook as he grabbed the lock again, blood from his knuckles mixing with rainwater. Come on, he muttered. Behind him, Mark rose to his feet, crowbar raised high. For a split second, Ethan saw the shadow moving. He turned just as the metal came down. Pain exploded across his shoulder. He fell to one knee, gasping. Lily screamed again, tears streaming down her face. Stop, Mark. Please stop. Mark didn't. You took everything from me, he yelled, raising the crowbar again. Before he could strike, a gunshot cracked through the storm. The sound echoed like thunder itself. Mark froze. Ethan looked toward the door. Mrs. Howard stood there, trembling, holding an old hunting rifle. Drop it, Mark, she said, her voice shaking but firm. I already called the sheriff. Mark's eyes darted between them, rage fading into fear. The dog growled beside him, still untamed, as if sensing his master's downfall. Ethan forced himself up, blood dripping from his shoulder. He looked at Lily, still trapped behind the bars, her face pale but alive. Then, from behind them, came a low growl, the sound of the dog breaking free completely. The dog lunged forward, snapping its chain completely loose. Its yellow eyes glowed in the lightning flash, foam spilling from its jaws. Mark stumbled backward, dropping the crowbar in panic. Mrs. Howard screamed, firing another shot, but the bullet ricocheted off a beam. The animal turned toward the sound, then toward Lily. Ethan didn't think. He rushed between the cage and the dog, raising the broken tarp like a shield. The beast hit him full force, teeth tearing into his sleeve. Pain shot through his arm as he wrestled it back, blood splattering the mud. Ethan, Lily cried, please, get away. But he wouldn't. Stay down, he shouted, voice strained. He shoved the dog aside, grabbing a shovel nearby and swinging it hard. The blow landed across the animal's ribs. It yelped but came back, angrier. Mrs. Howard reloaded with shaking hands. Move, Ethan, she cried. He ducked as she fired again. This time the shot found its mark. The dog collapsed with a whimper, the echo of thunder masking the final sound. For a moment, silence. Rain tapped the metal roof. Steam rose from the barn floor. Lily's body trembled inside the cage. Ethan, your arm. He pressed his hand over the wound, blood seeping between his fingers. It's fine. We need to get you out. He pulled the keys from Mark's pocket. Mark was still on his knees, staring blankly at the dog's body, shock replacing fury. Ethan unlocked the cage. The door creaked open. Lily tried to stand, but her legs gave way. He caught her just before she fell. Her skin was clammy, her breathing shallow. My baby, she whispered. Something's wrong. Ethan's heart pounded. What do you mean? A sharp cry escaped her lips. She clutched her stomach. It's coming. Now, Mrs. Howard gasped. Dear Lord, she's in labor. Ethan tore off his jacket and laid it on the ground. We can't move her in this storm. Help me, Mrs. Howard. We'll deliver right here. The elderly woman nodded, already unwrapping her scarf to use as a cloth. Mark finally looked up, his face pale as death. No, this isn't real. Ethan glared at him. You did this. The least you can do now is stay out of the way. Lily's cries grew louder, echoing through the barn. Thunder rolled outside, but inside there was only pain, fear, and determination. Ethan held her hand tightly. Breathe, Lily. I've got you. Just breathe. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she pushed, gasping for air. The old woman worked quickly, whispering prayers. Time blurred. Seconds felt like hours. Then finally, a sound cut through the storm. A baby's cry. Small, fragile, miraculous. Lily collapsed back, sobbing in relief. Ethan wrapped the baby in his coat, his hands trembling as he placed the child in her arms. It's a boy, he said softly. She looked at the baby's face, then at him. Thank you. You saved us. But before Ethan could answer, a sudden noise came from outside. Tires screeching. More headlights slicing through the rain. Mark's lover, Chloe, had arrived. And she wasn't alone. The screech of tires tore through the night, followed by the slam of a car door. Lily flinched, clutching her newborn tighter against her chest. The baby whimpered softly. Ethan rose, breathing hard, still bleeding from his arm. Rain dripped from the ceiling onto the muddy floor. From the doorway, a woman's voice cut through the storm. Smooth, cold, poisonous. Mark, what the hell happened here? Chloe Reed stepped inside, her heels sinking into the mud. Even drenched, she looked like she just walked off a magazine cover. Blonde hair, red lipstick, a silk coat far too fine for a barn. Behind her stood two men in leather jackets, both carrying flashlights and bad intentions. Mark's face twisted with confusion. Chloe, you shouldn't be here. She laughed lightly, stepping over the dead dog without a glance. "Oh, darling, I had to see it with my own eyes. You said you'd handle your wife quietly. Instead, the police are coming, and your little farm looks like a murder scene." Her eyes landed on Lily and the baby. "And she's still alive. How disappointing." Ethan moved in front of Lily, his jaw tightening. "Who are you?" Chloe smirked. "Someone cleaning up the mess your damsel in distress caused. This man owes me money, sweetheart. A lot of it." She turned to Mark. "You promised me her life insurance, remember?" Lily's eyes widened. "Insurance? Mark, is that why you did this?" Mark's lips trembled, shame flickering across his face. "Chloe, stop talking." "Oh, don't look so shocked, dear," Chloe said, tilting her head mockingly. "Your husband here was going to make us both rich, but then you refused to die on schedule." Mrs. Howard gasped. "You wicked girl." Ethan stepped forward. "You're leaving now," he said coldly. "The sheriff's already on his way." Chloe's smile vanished. "You think I'm afraid of some small-town cop?" She snapped her fingers. The two men moved closer, one pulling out a knife. Lily clutched her baby, backing toward the wall. "Please don't." Ethan reached for the shovel, still sticky with blood. His voice was steady. "You'll have to go through me first." The tension cracked like lightning. One of the men lunged, swinging the knife. Ethan ducked, blocking the attack with the shovel's handle. They grappled, crashing into the fence. The baby began to cry, the sound piercing and fragile. Mark, trembling, watched the chaos unfold. "Chloe, stop this. We can still fix it." "Fix it," she snapped. "You're finished, Mark. Once they find this mess, you're going to prison. I'll make sure of it." She turned toward the door. "But Mrs. Mall?" Howard aimed the rifle again. "Nobody moves," she warned. Chloe froze. Her bodyguards hesitated, then bolted through the rain, abandoning her. For the first time, fear flickered in Chloe's eyes. Ethan held his ground, blood running down his arm. Outside, the wail of sirens grew louder, flashing blue lights cutting through the darkness. Chloe turned to run, but the sheriff's car screeched to a stop at the gate. Officers jumped out, guns drawn, shouting orders. Mark sank to his knees in the mud, hands over his face. And as they dragged Chloe toward the squad car, her last words hissed like venom. "This isn't over, Lily. He'll come for you." The sun rose weakly over the Texas horizon, painting the soaked fields in a pale, uncertain gold. The storm had passed, but the air still smelled of rain, blood, and fear. Police cars littered the yard outside the Sanders property, their lights fading as the last officers finished their reports. Lily sat on the back of an ambulance, wrapped in a blanket. Her baby slept against her chest, tiny breaths rising and falling under the soft fabric. Ethan stood nearby, his arm bandaged, exhaustion written across his face. Sheriff Dalton closed his notebook with a sigh. "You're lucky, Miss Sanders. Another hour, and it might have been too late." He glanced toward the barn where Mark was being handcuffed. "Your husband's facing a long list of charges: assault, attempted murder, unlawful confinement." Lily nodded faintly, her eyes distant. "He was never like this. Not before." The sheriff's tone softened. People change when they let anger own them. He tipped his hat to Ethan. "You saved her life, son." Ethan shook his head. "I just did what anyone should have done." Dalton gave him a look that said he knew better, then walked away to supervise the transport. Mark shouted something unintelligible from the police car, but the door slammed, cutting his voice short. As the vehicles drove off, silence settled over the property. The barn door creaked in the wind, the scene inside already turning into a memory. Broken chains, a bloodied tarp, and a single set of footprints leading to freedom. Mrs. Howard approached with a thermos of coffee. "You two need rest," she said gently. "I can take you to my house until you figure out what's next." Lily hesitated. I don't want to stay near here anymore." Ethan looked at her, seeing the fear behind her tired eyes. "Then you'll come with me," he said simply. "My ranch has plenty of space, and you'll be safe there until things settle down." Mrs. Howard smiled knowingly. "That's a good man, dear. Don't argue with kindness." Lily looked down at her baby, whose tiny hand had wrapped around her finger. "I don't even know what to say." "Say yes," Ethan replied softly. She nodded, tears glimmering in her eyes. "Yes." They drove away from the wrecked barn later that morning. The fields stretched endlessly, washed clean by the storm. Lily leaned her head against the window, the baby sleeping in her arms. Ethan kept his eyes on the road, silent but aware of every breath she took. At his ranch, sunlight poured through the wide windows. The air smelled of cedar and fresh bread from the kitchen. It felt like another world, calm, safe, untouched by violence. Ethan helped her inside, setting her on the couch. "You'll rest here," he said. "I'll call a doctor to check on both of you." Lily nodded, overwhelmed by the gentleness of his voice. She looked around at the photographs on the walls, a younger Ethan with a smiling woman beside him. "Your wife?" she asked quietly. He hesitated. "She was. I lost her a few years ago." Something flickered between them, a quiet understanding of pain and survival. But as peace settled over the room, neither of them noticed the black car parked far down the road, and the figure watching from inside. The next few days passed in fragile calm. Ethan's ranch was a world apart from the chaos Lily had escaped, a wide, open landscape where the morning breeze smelled of hay and sun-warmed earth. The soft chirping of birds replaced the echoes of screams, and for the first time in months, Lily could breathe without fear. She spent her mornings sitting by the big kitchen window, the baby, whom she'd named Daniel, sleeping in a bassinet beside her. Ethan brought her breakfast every day, never staying long, never intruding. "You need rest," he'd say, his voice low, steady, kind. Still, Lily could see the pain behind his calm. Sometimes when he thought she wasn't looking, he'd stare out toward the stables where a single white horse grazed. She'd once asked about it. He'd said quietly, "It was my wife's favorite. I haven't ridden since she passed." Their conversations were simple, but each word carried weight. Two broken souls trying to find light in the ashes of what life had done to them. One afternoon, Ethan returned from town with groceries and a small envelope. "Mail for you," he said. "The sheriff's office forwarded it." Lily frowned, opening it with trembling hands. Inside was a legal notice, her court hearing for Mark's preliminary trial. Seeing his name printed in black ink made her stomach twist. "He's still in jail, right?" she asked, voice unsteady. Ethan nodded. "Yes, but Chloe made bail yesterday." Her eyes widened. "What? She tried to kill me. She's got money and connections," Ethan said grimly. "But the sheriff promised they're watching her. You and Daniel are safe here." Safe. The word sounded fragile. She wanted to believe it, but that night as she tried to sleep, she heard something that shattered the illusion. A car engine idling far down the driveway. Lily froze, holding her baby close. The sound lasted only a minute before fading into the distance, but it left her heart pounding. In the morning, she told Ethan. He didn't dismiss her fear. "I'll install cameras and motion lights," he said. "No one's getting near you again." That evening, he stayed longer than usual, sitting across from her by the fireplace. Daniel slept soundly in her arms. "You know," Ethan said quietly, "when I lost my wife, I thought I'd never protect anyone again. I couldn't even save her from that accident." He looked at Lily, his eyes steady but sad. "But when I saw you in that cage, something inside me woke up. I swore I wouldn't fail twice." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "You didn't fail. You saved us." He smiled faintly. "Maybe we saved each other." Outside, the wind rustled through the trees, gentle and calm. Lily felt something she hadn't felt in years, peace. But just as she laid Daniel in the crib and turned off the light, a faint click echoed from outside, a camera flash hidden in the dark. And miles away, Chloe scrolled through her phone, staring at the new photo of Lily and Ethan inside the ranch, and whispered, "Let's see how long your peace lasts." Morning sunlight spilled across Ethan's ranch, warm and deceptive, hiding the danger creeping closer. Lily stood at the porch railing, Daniel asleep in her arms, the smell of fresh coffee mingling with the breeze. For a brief moment, she let herself believe everything would be normal again. Inside, Ethan was on the phone with Sheriff Dalton. "You're certain Chloe's out?" he asked, pacing near the window. "Yeah," the sheriff replied. "Bailed out by a corporate lawyer from Houston. She's laying low, but I wouldn't trust her." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Neither would I." He hung up and glanced toward Lily, standing in the sunlight with her child. He swore to himself he wouldn't let anyone harm her again. But miles away, Chloe Reed was already planning her next move. She sat in a dim hotel room surrounded by cigarette smoke and half-empty wine glasses. Her reflection glared back from the mirror, angry, desperate, humiliated. The tabloids had started whispering her name in connection with Mark's arrest. She'd lost her boutique, her investors, everything. And in her twisted mind, all of it was Lily's fault. On the table lay a photograph she'd taken the night before, Lily standing on Ethan's porch, holding her baby, smiling. That image burned into Chloe's mind like acid. "You took him from me," she muttered. "You took my life." The hotel door opened and a rough-looking man entered, one of the bodyguards who'd abandoned her at the barn. "You said you'd pay double," he grunted. Chloe smiled coldly. "You'll get triple if you do exactly what I say." Back at the ranch, Ethan spent the day installing new locks and security cameras. "I'm not taking chances," he told Lily. She tried to smile, but her hands trembled as she folded Daniel's baby clothes. That night, as the sun sank behind the hills, Ethan lit a lantern and walked the perimeter of the property. The air was still, the silence almost too deep. Somewhere in the trees, an owl hooted. Inside, Lily sat rocking Daniel to sleep. She glanced toward the window and saw her reflection, and behind it, for just a second, a faint shadow moving near the fence. "Ethan?" she called. No answer. Her pulse quickened. She stood slowly, laying Daniel in his crib. The boards creaked under her feet as she crossed the room. She looked out again. Nothing. Just the wind brushing through tall grass. Then the phone rang, sharp, sudden. She jumped, heart pounding. She answered. Silence. "Hello?" Then came a whisper, low and venomous. "Enjoy your little fairy tale, Lily, because it's ending soon." Lily froze. "Who is this?" But the line went dead. Ethan rushed in seconds later. "What happened?" She handed him the phone, her face pale. It was her. Chloe. Ethan's expression darkened. "She's testing us." He grabbed his keys. "I'm gonna talk to the sheriff again. Lock the doors, don't open for anyone." Lily clutched Daniel, her breath trembling. She watched him drive off into the night, headlights disappearing down the dirt road. She tried to steady herself, whispering, "She can't hurt us anymore." But outside, unseen in the shadows near the porch, a camera light blinked red, recording everything. And across the road, Chloe whispered to her men, "Tonight, we start taking back what's mine." The night pressed heavy against the ranch, moonlight spilling silver over the fields. Lily couldn't sleep. Every creak in the floorboards, every whisper of wind made her tense. Daniel stirred in his crib, soft whimpers rising and falling. She hummed to soothe him, but her voice shook with fear. Ethan hadn't returned yet. He'd gone to the sheriff hours ago, but the drive was long, and the roads were rough after the storm. She checked the clock. Past midnight. Her pulse raced faster with every minute. Suddenly a faint noise came from outside, tires crunching over gravel. Headlights flashed across the living room walls, then went dark. Lily's breath caught. She crept to the window and peered through the curtains. Nothing. Just the dark outline of the oak trees. Still, something didn't feel right. She locked every door, checked every window, her hands trembling. Then came the sound that froze her blood, the front doorknob turning slowly. She backed away, clutching Daniel. "Who's there?" Silence. Her heart thundered in her chest. She grabbed Ethan's old hunting knife from the kitchen drawer, gripping it with shaking hands. A shadow moved across the porch window, then another. "Ethan?" she whispered. No answer. The door burst open with a crash. Two masked men rushed inside. Lily screamed, darting toward the back room. One of them shouted, "Get her!" She slammed the bedroom door and shoved a dresser against it. Daniel wailed, terrified. "It's okay, baby," she whispered, holding him close. Tears streamed down her face. "Mommy's here." The men pounded on the door. "You can't hide forever, sweetheart," one taunted. Lily's mind raced. The phone, Ethan's spare phone, was in the drawer. She grabbed it, dialing 911 with trembling fingers. 911, what's your emergency?" "This is Lily Sanders. Two men just broke into Ethan Moore's ranch. I have my baby. Please send help." The dispatcher's voice was calm but urgent. "Stay on the line, ma'am. Units are on the way. Can you barricade yourself?" "I'm trying." A window shattered in the living room. The men were breaking in from the side. One of them yelled, "We've got orders to bring her alive." Lily's breath hitched. Chloe? It had to be her. She looked around desperately, spotting the old trapdoor to the basement. She kicked it open, clutching Daniel tight, and climbed down into the darkness just as the bedroom door splintered. Dust and cold air swallowed them. She hid behind stacked crates, whispering to Daniel, "Shh, stay quiet." Above, heavy footsteps echoed through the house. "She's here somewhere," one of the intruders muttered. "Check the basement." Lily's heart nearly stopped. A flashlight beam cut through the darkness, sweeping across the stairs. She pressed her back to the wall, holding her breath as the light passed inches from her face. Then another sound. Tires again. A car screeching to a halt outside. A voice shouted, fierce and familiar. "Get away from my house, Ethan." Gunfire erupted. Glass shattered. The men scrambled, shouting. Lily covered Daniel's ears, trembling. Then came silence, only the echo of footsteps approaching the basement door. The trap door creaked open. A hand reached down. "Lily." Ethan's voice called softly. "It's over. You're safe now." She looked up at him through tears, the baby still crying against her chest. But as he lifted her out of the darkness, neither of them noticed the phone lying on the floor, still connected, and Chloe listening on the other end. Ethan slammed the door shut behind them, locking it twice before pulling the curtains closed. His face was streaked with rain and gunpowder. "They're gone," he said, voice low and rough. "For now." Lily clutched Daniel tighter, her heart hammering. "For now? What does that mean?" Ethan ran a trembling hand through his wet hair. "One of them got away. The sheriff's men are still 15 minutes out." She looked around the wrecked living room, glass shattered, curtains torn, muddy footprints on the floor. The smell of smoke and fear filled the air. "They were here because of her," Lily whispered. "Because of Chloe." Ethan nodded grimly. "She's not just angry, Lily. She's desperate, and desperate people do stupid, dangerous things." He poured her a glass of water, his hand still shaking. She didn't take it. She just stared at him, the man who had saved her twice now, who stood bleeding and bruised yet unbroken. "You could have died tonight," she said quietly. He gave a faint, tired smile. "You and Daniel were worth the risk." Her throat tightened. "Why? You barely know me." Ethan looked at her then, really looked, the exhaustion, the strength, the small flicker of hope that refused to die in her eyes. "Because I know what it's like to lose everything," he said, "and I'm not letting that happen again." Outside, sirens finally cut through the silence, flashing red and blue across the wet fields. The sheriff's car screeched into the driveway, followed by 2 patrol trucks. Officers jumped out, weapons drawn, searching the perimeter. Sheriff Dalton stormed inside. "Everyone all right?" Ethan nodded. 2 intruders. One's down, one escaped toward the highway. Dalton cursed under his breath. "We'll find them, and when we do, that woman's going back to jail." Lily sat down slowly, rocking Daniel as his cries faded into sleepy hiccups. "I just want this to end," she whispered. Dalton knelt beside her. "It will, ma'am. I'll make sure of it. But you need to testify again. Chloe's influence is spreading. If we don't shut her down now, she'll keep coming." Ethan spoke firmly. "She'll testify, but not here. I'll move them somewhere safe tomorrow." The sheriff nodded, leaving 2 deputies to guard the property overnight. When the chaos finally quieted, Ethan walked Lily to the guest room. The soft lamp light warmed the space, a fragile island of peace amid the storm. "You should sleep," he said. "I'll stay up." She hesitated. "You've done enough." He smiled faintly. "Not until you and your son can close your eyes without fear." She reached out, touching his bandaged arm. "You keep saving me, Ethan. I don't know how to thank you." He looked at her gently. "You already did, by surviving." Later that night, as he sat by the window with his rifle across his lap, he watched the horizon fade into darkness. The weight of everything pressed against his chest, loss, guilt, and a growing feeling he couldn't ignore anymore. Inside the guest room, Lily lay awake, staring at the ceiling. She whispered a prayer she hadn't dared in years. "Please, just let tomorrow be quiet." But as dawn crept closer, a single text message lit up her phone screen beside the crib. From an unknown number. "Tomorrow won't be quiet. It'll be your turn to scream." The morning sun tried to break through a curtain of gray clouds, but the light felt cold and distant. Lily hadn't slept at all. The message on her phone still glowed in her mind like fire. "Tomorrow won't be quiet." She could almost hear Chloe's voice whispering those words. Ethan brewed coffee in the kitchen, his eyes shadowed with exhaustion. "You didn't rest," he said softly. "How could I?" she murmured. "She's out there, watching us." He reached for her hand. "I talked to the sheriff before sunrise. They traced the call. It came from a prepaid phone near town. She's still in Texas." Lily's breath trembled. "Then she's close." "Which means she's scared," Ethan said. "Desperate people lash out before they fall. We're going to end this, Lily. Together." For the first time since the nightmare began, something flickered in her eyes. Belief. She nodded, holding Daniel close. By noon, A county detective arrived to collect evidence. Photos, footprints, the broken lock. The deputy assigned to guard the ranch assured them everything would be fine. "We'll have patrol cars driving by all night," he promised. But that evening, as the sky turned crimson, Ethan felt the unease return. The silence outside seemed too perfect. The horses were restless, pacing the fence line. The air smelled of rain again, and something else. Oil. He walked out to the driveway and froze. Fresh tire marks. 2 sets. He ran back inside. "Lily, pack Daniel's things now." Her heart jumped. "What's wrong?" "She's here." Or she was. He loaded his revolver, checking every window. "We're leaving for the city tonight." Lily didn't argue. She hurried to gather clothes and formula, her hands trembling as thunder rolled across the sky. They were almost ready when the power went out. The house fell into darkness. Daniel began to cry. Lily's pulse raced. "Ethan?" He clicked on a flashlight, sweeping it across the room. "Stay close to me." Lightning flashed outside, and in that split second, a shadow crossed the porch. The window shattered. A rock crashed through, landing at Lily's feet. Tied to it was a piece of paper, soaked but legible. "You took him from me. I'll take everything from you." Lily's scream tore through the air. Ethan grabbed her, pulling her toward the back door. "Go to the truck." Gunfire exploded outside. The barn lights flickered back on. Someone had rerouted the generator. A car engine roared to life. Ethan fired back into the darkness, hitting one of the tires. Sparks flew as a black SUV spun out near the gate. But before he could move closer, it sped away into the storm. Lily held Daniel, shaking uncontrollably. "She's not stopping, Ethan. She'll never stop." He looked at her, rain dripping from his hair, and said with a quiet conviction, "Then neither will I." The thunder rolled again, louder this time, echoing like a warning. Inside the flickering light of the ranch, Ethan reloaded his gun, eyes hard with resolve. Because he knew this wasn't just survival anymore, it was war. Rain came down again that night, heavy and relentless, beating against the windows like fists. The storm mirrored the chaos inside Lily's chest. She sat by the fire, Daniel asleep in her arms, trying to pretend she didn't jump at every sound. But every gust of wind felt like footsteps, every creak of the house a warning. Ethan paced near the window, gun at his side, eyes locked on the fields. "The sheriff's sending extra patrols," he said. "They'll circle the ranch every hour." Lily nodded, though the reassurance felt thin. "She's watching us, Ethan. I can feel it." He turned to her, voice firm but gentle. "She wants you afraid. That's her power. But she's running out of time. When people like her lose control, they make mistakes." Lily tried to believe him, but the storm outside grew louder, angrier. Then, just after midnight, the power went out again. This time, it wasn't lightning. Ethan's flashlight flickered on, sweeping across the room. "Stay here," he ordered. "No," Lily said quickly, clutching Daniel. "You're not going out there alone." Before he could argue, a faint orange glow appeared through the rain-streaked window. It wasn't lightning, it was fire. Ethan's eyes widened. "The barn!" He ran out the door, rain soaking through his shirt instantly. Lily followed to the porch, gasping as she saw the flames devouring the far end of the property. The horses screamed, kicking against their stalls. "Ethan!" she cried. He disappeared into the smoke. The wind howled, pushing the fire closer to the house. Lily ran inside, grabbed a blanket, and wrapped Daniel tighter. She could barely breathe as smoke began to drift through the air. Minutes felt like hours. Then, through the blaze, Ethan emerged, coughing, dragging 2 frightened horses toward the gate. His face was blackened with soot, his eyes wild with determination. "She did this," he shouted over the roar. "The gas cans were left open. Chloe's trying to burn us out." Lily's heart broke at the thought. Chloe's hatred had turned into madness. The sheriff's sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Ethan turned back toward the flames, desperate to stop them from spreading. "Get Daniel to the truck," he yelled. But before Lily could move, another explosion rocked the ground. The second barn ignited, sending a fireball into the air. The blast threw Ethan backward. Lily screamed and ran toward him, tripping over the muddy ground. "Ethan!" She knelt beside him, his face pale, breath shallow. He tried to sit up, groaning. "I'm okay," he gasped. "We have to move." The sheriff's trucks screeched onto the property, men jumping out with hoses and rifles. One deputy ran to Lily's side, pulling her and Daniel toward safety. "We've got him," he shouted. The flames crackled, lighting the sky blood red. Ethan struggled to his feet, eyes fixed on the dark tree line beyond the fields. Amid the smoke, a silhouette stood, a woman in a long coat, her blonde hair glinting in the firelight. Chloe. She smiled once, almost proudly, before disappearing into the storm. And as the firefighters battled the blaze, Ethan whispered through clenched teeth, "This ends tonight." By dawn, the storm had passed, leaving behind a landscape of ruin. Smoke curled from the remains of Ethan's barn, the air thick with the scent of burned wood and sorrow. Firefighters packed up their gear, their faces solemn. What once stood as the heart of his ranch was now a pile of blackened ash. Lily stood near the fence, wrapped in Ethan's jacket, Daniel asleep against her chest. The horizon glowed pale pink, beautiful yet cruel, a reminder that even tragedy had to bow to mourning. Ethan limped toward her, his shirt torn, his hands blistered from the fire. "You should go inside," he said hoarsely. She shook her head. "You lost everything. I'm not leaving you alone in this." He gave a faint, broken smile. "It's just wood and metal. What matters is still standing." His eyes lingered on her and the baby, and for the first time the pain in his voice softened. Sheriff Dalton approached, hat in hand. "We found gas cans near the east fence, just like you said. Tracks lead toward the highway. We're putting out a statewide alert for Chloe Reed." Lily's stomach tightened. "She was here. I saw her. She watched it burn." Dalton nodded grimly. "She's not hiding anymore. That makes her dangerous and sloppy. We'll catch her." Ethan's gaze hardened. "Not if I catch her first." Dalton sighed. "Ethan, don't make this personal. Let us handle it." He didn't answer. He just stared at the horizon, jaw set. After the sheriff left, Lily followed Ethan into what was left of the barn. The ground was soaked, steam rising from charred boards. She knelt, picking up a half-burned photograph. Ethan's late wife, smiling beside him on the same property years ago. The edges curled and blackened. She looked up at him. "I'm sorry." He took the photo gently, his thumb brushing over the ashes. "She'd want me to keep going. Maybe this is her way of making me start again." Lily's eyes glistened. "You already have." For a long moment, neither spoke. The only sound was Daniel's soft breathing and the distant hum of police radios. Then Ethan's phone buzzed. A new message. He opened it. No number, just a video file. He pressed play. The screen showed Chloe sitting in the driver's seat of a car, red lipstick and a cruel smile. "Miss me?" she purred. The camera panned down to reveal a gun resting on her lap. "You took my freedom, Ethan. You took my future. So I'm taking something back." The screen flickered, then showed a street sign. Main Street, Harris County Courthouse. Ethan froze. "She's going to the trial." Lily's eyes widened. "My hearing's tomorrow. She's going after the judge, or me." He looked at her, every trace of gentleness gone. "No, she's not." He turned toward the open road, rainwater still glistening on the gravel. His voice was low, dangerous. "This time, I'm ending it." And as the sun rose behind him, Lily realized Ethan wasn't just protecting her anymore. He was preparing for war. The next morning, the courthouse in Harris County stood like a stone fortress under a gray sky. Reporters crowded the steps, cameras flashing as they shouted questions about the Sanders case. Inside, Lily clutched Daniel tightly, her pulse pounding with every echo of her footsteps. Ethan walked beside her, his arm protectively hovering near her back. "This will be quick," he murmured. "You'll give your statement, and we'll go home." Home. The word felt fragile now. Nothing about her world was safe, not with Chloe still out there. Sheriff Dalton met them at the door. "We've got plainclothes deputies inside and out," he said. "If Chloe shows, she won't make it past the parking lot." Lily nodded, though her stomach still twisted. "She's too smart to walk through the front door." Dalton gave a thin smile. "Then we'll be smarter." They entered the courtroom. The scent of polished wood and paper filled the air. Mark Sanders sat at the defendant's table, wrists cuffed, eyes sunken. He looked smaller now, broken, but the bitterness in his glare was still alive. When Lily took the stand, he leaned forward, whispering something she couldn't hear. Her lawyer squeezed her hand. "Don't look at him," he whispered. "Just tell the truth." She did. Every painful detail, the cage, the dog, the fear, the nights praying for help. Her voice cracked, but she didn't stop. When she finished, the courtroom was silent. Even Mark didn't move. Ethan watched her with quiet pride. For the first time, Lily wasn't a victim. She was a survivor. But just as the judge called for recess, a commotion erupted in the hallway. Shouting. The crash of glass. Dalton's radio crackled. East entrance breached. Repeat, east entrance. Ethan's instincts kicked in. He grabbed Lily's arm. Stay down. The doors burst open, a flash of silver. A gunshot cracked through the air. Screams filled the courtroom. Lily ducked, shielding Daniel. Deputies returned fire, chaos exploding in every corner. Papers flew, people scattered. Ethan tackled Lily behind the witness stand as another shot shattered the judge's window. Dalton yelled, "She's in the building!" Lily's breath caught. Chloe. Through the smoke of gunpowder and panic, a figure emerged. Blonde hair matted from rain, eyes wide with fury. Chloe Reed. She limped forward, blood on her temple, pistol trembling in her hand. "You took everything from me," she screamed. Ethan rose slowly, hands raised. "It's over, Chloe. Drop the gun." She laughed, a broken sound. "You think you get to walk away with her? With my future?" Dalton stepped closer, weapon drawn. "Put it down, Chloe." Her hand twitched. No, she turned the gun toward Lily. Ethan didn't think, he lunged. The shot rang out, echoing like thunder. Chloe screamed, dropping the gun as deputies tackled her to the floor. Lily's cry split the air. Ethan stumbled, clutching his shoulder. Blood spreading fast. Dalton grabbed Chloe, shouting orders, but all Lily could see was Ethan falling to his knees. She crawled to him, tears blurring her vision. "Ethan, no, please stay with me." He tried to smile, pain twisting his face. "I told you, I wouldn't let her win." Then his eyes flickered shut, and the courtroom fell into a silence colder than any storm. The world became a blur of sirens and screams. Lily's hands pressed against Ethan's wound, her fingers slick with his blood. "Stay with me, please," she sobbed. His breathing was shallow, his skin pale. The paramedics burst through the courtroom doors, shouting orders, moving fast but not fast enough for her heart to keep up. "Gunshot to the shoulder, possible internal bleed," one medic barked. They lifted Ethan onto a stretcher. His eyes fluttered open for a second, barely focusing on her. "Don't cry," he whispered weakly. "You and Daniel, you're safe." Lily gripped his hand as they wheeled him out. "No, we're not safe until you're okay. Ethan, look at me." But his eyes rolled back, and the world tilted. Chloe screamed from the corner where deputies pinned her down. "He deserves it. He took everything from me." Lily turned, rage blazing through her tears. "You destroyed yourself, Chloe." Dalton's voice thundered, "Get her out of here before I forget she's still breathing." As they dragged Chloe away, she kept laughing. A sound sharp enough to pierce bone. "He'll never love you, Lily. You're cursed. You ruin everyone you touch." Lily covered her ears, trembling, unable to breathe, until Chloe's voice was finally gone. Outside, rain began to fall again. The courthouse steps were flooded with reporters, but their voices blurred into nothing. All Lily saw was the flashing red lights of the ambulance carrying Ethan away. She climbed inside without asking permission, clutching Daniel to her chest. The ride felt endless. Every bump in the road made her heart seize. The paramedic kept applying pressure, his voice urgent. "He's losing blood fast. We need that hospital now." Lily whispered prayers between sobs. "God, please don't take him. Not him. He saved us. He doesn't deserve this." When they reached the emergency room, nurses rushed Ethan through the doors. One stopped Lily at the threshold. "Ma'am, you can't go in yet." Her knees buckled. She clung to the wall, Daniel crying in her arms. "Please, just tell me he'll live." The nurse hesitated, eyes soft with pity. "We'll do everything we can." Hours passed. Lily sat in the waiting room, numb, Daniel asleep in her lap. Every tick of the clock cut deeper. Sheriff Dalton arrived, hat in hand. "She's in custody," he said. "Chloe won't be seeing daylight for a long time." Lily looked up, eyes hollow. "That won't matter if he dies." Dalton sighed. "Ethan's strong. I've seen him walk away from worse. Don't lose faith now." She nodded faintly, but inside the fear never loosened its grip. At last, a doctor appeared, his scrubs stained and weary. "He made it through surgery," he said. "The bullet missed his heart by an inch. He's unconscious but stable." Lily burst into tears, covering her mouth to muffle the sound. "Can I see him?" The doctor nodded. "Only for a minute." She entered the dim hospital room, her footsteps soft. Ethan lay pale but breathing, monitors beeping steadily. She took his hand, pressing it to her cheek. "You said you wouldn't let her win," she whispered. "And you didn't. You saved us again." But outside that quiet room, down the hospital corridor, a nurse answered a ringing phone, and the voice on the other end whispered, "Tell her this isn't finished." The hospital smelled of antiseptic and sorrow. Machines hummed softly in Ethan's room, each beep a fragile reminder that he was still alive. Lily sat beside his bed, her fingers intertwined with his motionless hand. Daniel slept in a carrier at her feet, unaware of the weight pressing down on his mother's heart. She hadn't slept in 30 hours. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw blood, fire, and Chloe's cold smile. Each image clawed at her mind until she jerked awake again. The nurse checked Ethan's vitals quietly. "He's stable," she whispered, "but his body's exhausted. He needs rest, and so do you." Lily forced a faint smile. "I can't rest until he opens his eyes," the nurse sighed. "Sometimes love is the best medicine. Keep talking to him." Then she slipped out, leaving Lily alone with the rhythmic sound of machines and the rain outside. She brushed a strand of hair from his forehead. "You promised me we'd be safe," she whispered. "You kept that promise. Now keep another. Wake up, Ethan. Please." Her voice broke. "I can't do this without you." The door creaked softly. Sheriff Dalton entered, hat in hand. "You look like hell," he said gently. She gave a weak laugh. "That makes two of us." He pulled up a chair. "We've got Chloe locked in isolation. She's refusing to talk, keeps saying things that don't make sense, but she's scared. Whatever she started, she's losing control of it." Lily frowned. "What do you mean?" Dalton hesitated. "We found evidence in her car. Fake passports, credit cards, and letters from someone in Mexico. She was planning to run, but whoever helped her, they're not done yet." Lily's heart sank. "So there's someone else?" Dalton nodded. "Maybe more than one. She had help setting those fires. That's what worries me." The room grew heavier. The only sound was the steady beeping of Ethan's heart monitor. After Dalton left, Lily leaned closer to Ethan, whispering, "You hear that? They're still out there. But I'm not running anymore. You taught me how to fight back." She laid her head on the edge of his bed, exhaustion finally dragging her under. For a few brief minutes, she dreamed of sunlight, laughter, Ethan holding Daniel in a green field. It felt real, peaceful. Then a noise shattered the calm. The monitor beeped faster, wild and erratic. Nurses rushed in. "Ma'am, please step back." Lily's heart stopped. "What's happening?" The doctor shouted. "He's going into shock. We're losing pressure." She was pushed to the wall as they worked, oxygen masks, needles, orders flying. "Come on, Ethan. Stay with us." Lily's knees hit the floor. She clasped her hands together, praying harder than she ever had before. "Please, God, don't take him now. He hasn't even held his son yet." Then, just as suddenly, the chaos quieted. The monitor steadied. The doctor exhaled. "We've got him." Tears flooded Lily's eyes. She covered her mouth, shaking with relief. The nurse smiled softly. "He's strong. He's fighting his way back." Lily leaned over him, her tears falling on his hand. "Then I'll fight with you," she whispered. But out in the hospital parking lot, under the flickering streetlight, a man in a dark coat watched the window and made a call. "The girl's still alive. Finish what Chloe started." By the second night, the rain had stopped, but the world still felt heavy, haunted. The hospital corridor was quiet except for the distant hum of machines and the soft shuffle of nurses on their rounds. Lily sat awake again, unable to take her eyes off Ethan's still face. His color had returned slightly, but he hadn't spoken since the operation. She brushed her thumb across his hand. "You've fought harder than anyone I've ever known," she whispered. "But I need you to wake up. Ethan, I need you." Outside the window, lightning flashed far away, dry lightning without rain. It illuminated the parking lot below for a split second. And in that brief flicker of light, a figure moved, a tall man in a dark coat, standing perfectly still, watching her window. Lily's stomach twisted. She blinked, but when she looked again, he was gone. Her pulse raced. "It's just exhaustion," she told herself. But deep down, something primal screamed otherwise. Moments later, the nurse entered to check Ethan's vitals. "Everything okay, dear?" Lily hesitated. There was someone outside. A man. The nurse frowned, moving to the window. Probably a security guard doing rounds. But Lily's voice was low, firm. "No, he was staring at this room." The nurse tried to reassure her. "You've been through too much trauma. Your mind might be playing tricks." She smiled kindly. "Try to rest." When she left, Lily's heart refused to settle. She moved Daniel's carrier closer to the bed, keeping both of them within arm's reach. The hospital lights flickered. Somewhere down the hall, a phone rang, then stopped abruptly. Minutes passed. Then came a sound that didn't belong, the faint click of a door handle turning. Lily's eyes shot to the doorway. It was closed. Locked. Still, she felt it. Someone was there. She could sense it. Her hand trembled as she reached for her phone. She dialed the sheriff's number, whispering, "Please pick up." No answer. Then another sound, this one closer. A slow, deliberate footstep just outside the door. She stood, pressing her back to the wall, heart pounding so hard it hurt. She grabbed the IV pole beside Ethan's bed, gripping it like a weapon. Another step. The doorknob rattled. "Who's there?" she called, voice cracking. Silence. Then the hospital alarm blared, shrill and deafening. Red emergency lights flashed along the corridor. Ethan stirred faintly, groaning. Ethan, wake up." He blinked, confused. "Lily, what's happening?" Before she could answer, the door swung open violently. A man in black burst inside, face hidden beneath a hood. He lunged for her, grabbing her wrist. Lily screamed, twisting away. The phone crashed to the floor. Ethan tried to rise, pain twisting his body. Security guards sprinted down the hall, shouting commands. The man released Lily and bolted toward the exit. One guard tackled him near the elevator, struggling to subdue him. Lily rushed to the doorway, clutching Daniel. The hood fell back, revealing a scarred face she didn't recognize. "Who sent you?" one officer demanded. The man spat, eyes burning. "Tell Chloe I kept my promise." Lily's blood ran cold, because in that moment she realized Chloe wasn't working alone, and the war had just begun again. The hospital erupted into chaos. Security swarmed the corridors, and doctors shouting for calm, while officers dragged the hooded intruder through the hallway. Lily clutched Daniel to her chest, shaking as adrenaline burned through her veins. Ethan tried to sit up, grimacing from the pain. "Who was he?" he rasped. Lily shook her head, voice trembling. "He said Chloe sent him, but she's in jail. How could she?" Sheriff Dalton burst into the room moments later, his expression carved from stone. "I heard the call. Everyone's locked down. The guy's in custody, but he's not talking yet." Ethan's voice was weak but steady. "He said her name. That means someone's helping her from the outside." Dalton nodded grimly. "Yeah, we found burner phones in her cell this morning. Someone's been sneaking her messages. Looks like she's got an entire network of people still loyal to her. And money somewhere offshore." Lily's stomach dropped. "You mean she's running this from prison?" Dalton exhaled slowly. "Looks that way. She's not just bitter, Lily. She's organized." Outside, thunder rolled again, echoing down the glass hallway. The air felt too heavy, too quiet, the kind of quiet that comes before another storm. Ethan squeezed her hand. "We're leaving tonight." Dalton frowned. "You're safer here under guard." Ethan's eyes hardened. "She found this hospital. That means someone here's feeding her information. We stay, we die." Dalton hesitated, then nodded. "Fine, I'll arrange an escort to a safe house up north. No paper trail." While the sheriff stepped out to make arrangements, Lily sat beside Ethan's bed. "You can't travel like this," she whispered. "You're still healing." He gave a faint smile. "You forget, I've been through worse." She tried to smile back, but fear lingered in her eyes. "I don't want to lose you." "You won't," he said softly. "Not now, not ever." Hours later, just after midnight, the escort arrived. 2 unmarked SUVs, plainclothes officers driving. The sky was clear but moonless. Lily held Daniel close as Ethan, weak but determined, limped beside her to the car. Dalton approached before they left. "Keep your phones off. Don't stop for anyone. The safe house is in Caldwell County, about 2 hours north. I'll meet you there at sunrise." Ethan nodded. "Thank you, Sheriff." Dalton tipped his hat. "Watch each other." As they drove away from the hospital, Lily watched the city lights fade behind them. Daniel slept peacefully in her arms. Ethan sat beside her, hand resting over hers, his breathing steady but strained. For the first time in days, she dared to think maybe, just maybe, they could outrun the nightmare. But halfway down the highway, the lead car suddenly swerved. Tires screeched. Headlights exploded in the mirrors. "Ethan!" Lily cried. A black truck came out of nowhere, slamming into the escort vehicle. The SUV flipped, crashing across the road. Their driver cursed, trying to regain control. Gunfire erupted from the truck's windows, bullets shattering glass. Ethan pulled Lily down, covering her with his body. The driver shouted, "They found us! Hang on!" Ethan grabbed the wheel as the car spun off the shoulder, dirt flying everywhere. The black truck pulled ahead, blocking their path. The passenger door opened, and there, Standing under the floodlights was a man holding a phone. On the screen, Chloe's face glowed through a live video feed. And with a twisted smile, she said, "Welcome back to hell, Ethan." The black truck's engine roared like thunder, blocking the highway. Ethan's hands tightened on the steering wheel, his wound aching as blood seeped through his bandage. Lily crouched low in the back seat, shielding Daniel beneath her body. Bullets pinged against the metal, glass splintered across the seats. "Hold on," Ethan shouted, jerking the car into reverse. Tires screamed against asphalt, smoke curling from the burning rubber. He spun the wheel hard, sending the SUV into a sharp U-turn. The black truck followed, headlights blazing through the darkness like a predator's eyes. Lily screamed, "They're gaining on us!" Ethan gritted his teeth. Not for long. He floored the accelerator, the engine groaning in protest. The highway stretched endlessly ahead, a ribbon of darkness lined by pine trees and danger. From the truck behind, gunfire erupted again. Bullets tore through the rear window. Lily ducked, holding Daniel tighter, her heart pounding in her throat. "Ethan, please, I know," he shouted, swerving hard as one tire blew. The car fishtailed, scraping the guardrail, sparks flying. The world tilted. For one terrifying second, it felt like they were airborne. Then, crash. The SUV slammed into a ditch, metal twisting. The impact threw Lily forward. Pain shot through her arm. Daniel cried out, unharmed but terrified. Ethan groaned, pushing open the driver's door. "We have to move." The black truck screeched to a stop up the hill. Two men climbed out, both armed. One held his phone, Chloe's voice echoing faintly from the speaker. "Bring me the woman and the child. Kill him." Lily's blood ran cold. Ethan grabbed her hand. "Run to the woods." They scrambled up the embankment, mud slipping beneath their shoes. Daniel whimpered softly against Lily's chest as branches whipped at her face. Behind them, gunshots cracked through the night. Bark splintered from trees. "Keep going," Ethan gasped, clutching his side. They stumbled through the forest, the faint glow of moonlight guiding them. Ahead, a river shimmered faintly, their only chance. Lily's legs burned, her lungs on fire. "We can't outrun them forever." Ethan turned, his face fierce. "We don't have to." He pulled a flare from his pocket, one he'd taken from the SUV's emergency kit. He struck it, the red light cutting through the darkness. He hurled it into the gas leaking from the wrecked car. A heartbeat later, the night exploded. The fireball rolled across the highway, shaking the earth. The truck went up in flames, throwing one of the gunmen to the ground. The second man screamed, diving for cover. Lily shielded Daniel's face as the light flared behind them. Ethan grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the river. "Go, go." They splashed into the freezing water, the current dragging at their legs. Lily's breath came in sharp bursts as she fought to keep Daniel above the surface. Ethan guided her, his strength fading but his resolve unshaken. They reached the far bank, collapsing among the reeds. The burning wreck painted the sky in red and orange, smoke rising like ghosts. Ethan coughed, blood staining his lips. "She won't stop," he said hoarsely. "She'll keep sending people." Lily cupped his face, trembling. "Then we stop her first." For a moment, they just stared at each other. Two souls bound by fire and fate. But in the distance, sirens wailed, and over their sound came another, colder noise. A phone ringing in Ethan's pocket, with Chloe's name flashing on the screen. The phone vibrated in Ethan's shaking hand, the name Chloe Reed glowing against the darkness. The fire still burned across the highway, its reflection dancing in his eyes. Lily clutched Daniel, her heart thundering. "Don't answer," she whispered. Ethan stared at the screen, jaw tightening. "If I don't, she won't stop." He swiped to accept the call. Static hissed for a moment, then her voice slithered through, soft, venomous, almost sweet. "You're a hard man to kill, Ethan." His voice was low, controlled. "You sent men after a woman and her child. You crossed a line, Chloe." A low chuckle. "Lines don't exist when you've lost everything. You think she deserves your love, that murderer's wife?" Lily's face went pale. "Put her on speaker," she said, her voice trembling. Ethan hesitated, then pressed the button. Chloe's words filled the night. "Oh, Lily, you're still alive. I should have known you'd cling to him like a parasite. You took my future, my money, my life, and now you've taken him too." Lily's voice cracked with fury. "You did this to yourself. You burned homes, ruined lives, tried to kill your own lover's child. What kind of person does that?" Chloe laughed, sharp and cruel. "The kind of woman who doesn't lose." "But you, Lily." You've always been weak. You hide behind men like Ethan because you can't stand on your own." Ethan's patience snapped. "Enough. You want me? Come and finish it yourself." "Oh, I plan to," she purred. "You'll find me where it all began." The call ended. Silence dropped heavy around them. Lily frowned. "Where it all began, the barn," Ethan nodded slowly. "She's going back there. She wants to end it on her terms." Lily shivered. "It's a trap." He looked at her, determination burning in his eyes. "Maybe. But it's one I'm walking into, because this ends tonight." "Not without me," she said fiercely. "She's haunted both of us. I won't run again." He wanted to argue, but one look at her told him she wouldn't back down. The same woman who had once begged for mercy now spoke with fire in her voice. "Then we go together," he said finally. By dawn, the sirens had faded. They found a truck abandoned near the woods and drove toward the old Sanders property. The road was empty, eerily quiet. As they approached, the burned remains of the barn came into view, charred beams standing like black skeletons against the rising sun. Ethan parked 100 yards away. "Stay in the truck with Daniel until I signal." Lily nodded, clutching the baby. He stepped out, gun in hand, limping toward the ruins. Each step echoed with ghosts. His wife's laughter, Lily's screams, the memory of everything this place had taken. Then a voice floated through the smoke. "You came." Chloe stepped out from behind a half-burned pillar, her face streaked with dirt and madness. She held a pistol, but her hand trembled. "You always had a hero complex, Ethan. I was counting on it." Ethan raised his gun, eyes steady. "You don't scare me anymore." She smiled, a cracked, haunted smile. "Then you should look behind you." Ethan turned and saw another figure rise from the shadows, gun aimed straight at Lily's truck. Ethan's blood ran cold. He spun around and saw the glint of a gun barrel pointed directly at Lily's truck. The man who held it stepped out from behind the wrecked fence. The same scarred face from the hospital. Lily's scream tore through the air. "Ethan!" Ethan fired first. The bullet grazed the man's shoulder, sending him stumbling, but not down. Chloe laughed. The sound twisted, echoing through the ruins. "You can't save them both," she shouted. Ethan dove for cover behind a fallen beam. The man fired back, bullets splintering wood inches from his head. Smoke and dust filled the air. "Lily, get down," Ethan yelled. Lily ducked inside the truck, shielding Daniel. Her heart pounded as the windshield shattered. She could see Ethan, limping but relentless, moving through the debris. Every time Chloe's gun flashed, he answered with fire. "Why are you doing this, Chloe?" he shouted between shots. "What did she ever do to you?" Chloe's laughter cracked. "She lived, don't you see? She got the sympathy, the headlines, the hero. And me? I was nothing but the villain in your story. You chose that," he roared. "You made yourself into this." She aimed again, hands shaking. "Maybe, but I won't die alone." Lily's fear turned into fury. She grabbed the flare gun from the glove compartment, the same one Ethan had kept since the crash. She pushed Daniel under the passenger seat and whispered, "Stay down, baby." Then she threw open the door. "Lily, no," Ethan shouted. But she was already running, rain-soaked ground slipping under her feet. She fired the flare. The red streak cut through the smoke, striking the hood of the black truck behind Chloe. Flames erupted instantly. The explosion threw Chloe backward. The shockwave knocked Lily to the ground. Ethan ran to her, grabbing her shoulders. "Are you hurt?" She coughed, shaking her head. "Daniel, he's in the truck." Ethan turned, panic flashing in his eyes. The scarred man was limping toward the truck, weapon raised, ready to finish what Chloe had started. Ethan raised his gun, but his clip was empty. "No!" He sprinted, throwing himself between the attacker and the truck. The man fired. The bullet hit Ethan in the side. He didn't stop. He tackled the gunman to the ground, both of them crashing into the mud. They fought, fists and fury colliding. The man snarled, trying to grab the fallen gun. Ethan grabbed a shard of glass from the dirt and drove it into the man's arm. The weapon went off again, but the shot went wide. Chloe staggered to her feet, bleeding, screaming. "You ruined me, Ethan. You ruined everything." Ethan turned toward her, chest heaving. "You did that yourself." Lily stood behind Chloe now, shaking but steady, holding a piece of iron from the burned barn. "This ends now," she said. Chloe spun toward her, eyes wild. "You wouldn't dare." Lily's voice was ice. "You dared to lock me with a dog." She swung. The iron struck Chloe's wrist. The gun fell. Chloe screamed as she stumbled backward into the burning wreck. The fire swallowed her in seconds. Ethan collapsed to his knees, bleeding, gasping for breath. Lily ran to him, tears streaming. He looked at her weakly, forcing a smile. "You did it, Lily. It's over." She pressed her hand against his wound, sobbing. "No, not until we get out of here." And as the flames consumed the past, distant sirens grew louder, but Ethan's eyes began to close. The night sky glowed red, the barn collapsing in waves of fire. Smoke choked the air, thick with the scent of ash and gasoline. Lily cradled Ethan's head in her lap, her tears cutting streaks down her soot-covered cheeks. "Stay with me," she begged. "Please, Ethan, don't you dare leave me now." He tried to speak, but blood filled his mouth. "Lily, take Daniel. Go." "No," she cried, pressing her hand against his wound. "You're coming with me." The sirens grew louder. Red and blue lights flickered through the haze, but the flames were spreading fast, licking across the dry grass toward the truck. Daniel's muffled cries echoed from inside. Lily forced herself up, stumbling toward the vehicle. She ripped the door open, scooped him into her arms, and ran back to Ethan. "You see," she said through sobs, "we're all together. We're leaving, all three of us." Ethan tried to smile, pain twisting his face. "You're stronger than you know." She gripped his hand tighter. "Then don't make me do this alone." The firefighters arrived first, shouting orders. One of them grabbed Lily's shoulder. "Ma'am, you have to move. This structure's going to blow." She screamed, "Help him, please, he's bleeding." Two medics rushed in with a stretcher, lifting Ethan carefully. He groaned, his body limp but alive. Lily followed close. Daniel clutched against her chest, refusing to look back at the burning place where everything had begun, and finally ended. By the time they reached the ambulance, Ethan's eyes had closed again. The medic checked his pulse. Weak, but he's still fighting. Lily rode beside him, one hand on his arm, whispering prayers. The flashing lights painted her face in red and white as they sped down the highway toward the hospital. At dawn, the flames were finally extinguished. Sheriff Dalton stood near the wreckage, watching smoke rise from the ruins. His deputy approached, shaking his head. "We recovered 2 bodies, the gunman and her." Dalton exhaled, relief and exhaustion mingling. "Then it's over." "Maybe," the deputy said, "but someone's going to have to tell that woman her nightmare's finally done." Back at the hospital, Lily sat by Ethan's bedside once more, Daniel asleep in her arms. The steady beep of the heart monitor filled the quiet. This time, though, she wasn't crying. She was calm, empty, but certain. "You saved us again," she whispered. "I don't think I can ever repay you, but if you wake up, I'll spend my life trying." Ethan's eyelids fluttered, just slightly. His lips moved, the faintest sound escaping. "You already did." Her breath caught. "Ethan?" His fingers twitched in hers. She laughed through tears, pressing his hand to her face. "Don't you ever scare me like that again." He smiled weakly. "You never listen anyway." She leaned closer, kissing his forehead. "Then listen to this. It's over. Chloe's gone. We're free." Outside the window, the first light of morning broke through the clouds, painting the world gold. For the first time in months, Lily felt the weight begin to lift from her shoulders. Ethan's voice was faint but steady. "Let's go home." But just as she smiled, a nurse entered with a clipboard and whispered to the doctor, "There's something strange about the body we found in the fire. The dental records don't match Chloe Reed." The words froze the air in the hospital room. Lily's heart skipped. "What do you mean they don't match?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The nurse hesitated, glancing nervously toward the hallway. "The dental records. The woman in the fire wasn't Chloe Reed, it was someone else. A match just came in from the database, one of her former employees." Ethan's face drained of color. "You're saying she staged her own death?" The nurse nodded slowly. "That's what it looks like. The sheriff's on his way here right now." Lily's hands began to shake. No, this can't be happening. I saw her fall. I heard her scream." Ethan looked at her with weary eyes. "You heard a scream, but not necessarily hers." Daniel whimpered in his crib, sensing the tension in the room. Lily scooped him up, trying to calm her trembling arms. The world that had just started to feel safe was spinning again, darker and colder. Moments later, Sheriff Dalton stormed in, his coat still wet from rain. "It's confirmed," he said grimly. "The fire victim wasn't Chloe. She's alive, and she's gone to ground. We've got roadblocks set up, but she's been planning this for weeks." Lily's eyes filled with tears of frustration. "Why won't she just stop?" What more could she possibly want? Dalton hesitated. She wants revenge, Lily, the kind that doesn't end until someone's buried. Ethan tried to sit up, pain tightening his face. Then we stop running. She's counting on fear to finish the job. I won't give her that. Dalton crossed his arms. You've both been through hell. You can't fight her alone. We're not alone, Ethan said quietly, glancing at Lily. We've got something she never had, something she'll never understand. Dalton frowned. What's that? Family, Ethan said simply. The sheriff studied him for a long moment, then nodded. All right, but from now on, you're under protective watch. No one gets near you without my clearance. By nightfall, 2 deputies were stationed outside their room. Lily tried to rest, but sleep wouldn't come. Every shadow looked like her. Every creak of the hallway made her heart lurch. Ethan reached for her hand. She's not a ghost, he said softly. She's flesh and blood, and that means she can be stopped. Lily nodded, but doubt gnawed at her. What if she's already here? Then she'll regret it? Ethan whispered. But hours later, as the hospital lights dimmed and the halls grew silent, a lone security camera caught something that no one saw in real time, a figure in a nurse's uniform entering the maternity wing. Blonde hair tucked beneath a cap, a calm, deliberate walk. The woman passed the guards unnoticed, her badge flashing in the dim light. She paused outside a single room, Ethan and Lily's. She smiled, just a hint of satisfaction. From her pocket, she drew a folded photograph. Lily holding Daniel, Ethan smiling beside her. Soon, she whispered, you'll know what it's like to lose everything. Then she slid the photo beneath the door, a silent calling card of the nightmare reborn. And while Lily finally drifted into fragile sleep, Chloe Reed stood just inches away, watching through the glass, alive, unbroken, and ready to finish what she started. The hospital was silent except for the rhythmic hum of machines and the soft rain tapping against the windows. Lily stirred awake just as the first light of dawn touched the blinds. For a moment, she didn't know why her chest felt tight, why her heart pounded like she'd been running. Then she saw it. A single photograph on the floor near the door. Her blood ran cold. She reached down, her trembling fingers picking it up. It was the same image Chloe had once used to torment her. Lily holding Daniel, Ethan standing proudly beside her. Scrawled across the bottom in red ink were 4 words. You took my life. Lily's throat closed. Ethan, she whispered. He opened his eyes, groggy. What's wrong? She handed him the photo. His jaw tightened, the color draining from his face. She was here, he said softly, more statement than question. He pressed the call button for the nurse, but no one came. The hallway was eerily quiet. Ethan pulled himself upright, ignoring the pain in his side. Stay with Daniel. Don't move until I get back. Ethan, wait, but he was already limping toward the door. The hallway lights flickered as he stepped out. One of the deputies was slumped in his chair, unconscious but breathing. A syringe lay on the floor beside him. Ethan's heart slammed against his ribs. She's inside. He moved quietly, scanning each corner, every sound magnified. A faint noise drew his attention. The creak of the stairwell door at the end of the corridor. He pushed through it, the stairwell dimly lit, echoing with distant footsteps. Chloe, he shouted, his voice raw. Stop hiding. No answer, just the sound of footsteps growing fainter. Back in the room, Lily rocked Daniel in her arms, whispering prayers. The monitor beside Ethan's bed beeped steadily, a cruel reminder that he shouldn't even be walking. She looked toward the window and froze. A figure stood outside the glass, blonde hair tucked under a nurse's cap, blue eyes that gleamed like ice. Chloe smiled. Lily screamed. The door burst open. Ethan rushed in, gun in hand, just as Chloe smashed the window with a metal tool. Shards of glass rained down as she climbed inside, her face twisted with hatred. You should have burned, she shrieked. Ethan aimed. Don't move, Chloe. She laughed, blood trickling from her wrist. You won't shoot me. You're too noble for that. Lily's voice trembled. You don't have to do this. You can still walk away. Chloe tilted her head, eyes wild. Walk away? You think I came this far to walk away? She pulled a small knife from her pocket, pointing it toward Lily. You took him from me? Now I'll take you from him. Ethan fired, a warning shot. The bullet tore through the curtain, inches from her head. Drop it, he yelled. But Chloe didn't drop the knife. She lunged. Ethan grabbed her arm mid-swing, the two of them crashing against the window frame. Lily screamed as the knife clattered to the floor. They struggled, pain, rage, and years of obsession colliding in one violent moment. Chloe hissed through clenched teeth, "If I can't have peace, neither will you." She shoved Ethan backward, straight toward the broken window. He teetered on the edge, glass biting into his back. And as Lily rushed forward, time seemed to stop. Because Ethan was falling. Lily's scream ripped through the sterile air as Ethan crashed backward through the shattered window. Time slowed, his body twisting in midair, the light catching in his eyes. Then the terrible sound of impact echoed from below, followed by the clatter of broken glass raining onto the pavement. "Ethan!" Lily cried, sprinting to the window. She looked down, 3 floors beneath. He lay motionless on the concrete, her breath hitched, pain tearing through her chest. "No, no, no!" Chloe stood frozen, staring at what she'd done. For a fleeting moment, the madness drained from her face, replaced by something almost human. Horror. But it didn't last. Slowly, a twisted smile crept back. "Now you know how it feels," she whispered. Lily turned, her grief igniting into fury. "You don't get to walk away this time." She lunged, slamming into Chloe with every ounce of strength she had. The 2 women crashed against the hospital bed, the knife still gleaming on the floor. Chloe clawed at Lily's arms, snarling, "You think you're better than me?" Lily shoved her back, voice trembling but fierce. "No, I just survived what you never could." Chloe grabbed the knife and swung wildly. Lily ducked, the blade grazing her shoulder. Pain burned, but she didn't stop. She grabbed the curtain rod, ripping it from its hinges, and struck Chloe across the arm. The knife fell again, skittering under the bed. Nurses screamed from the hallway as alarms blared. Security burst in, weapons drawn, but Lily and Chloe were locked in a deadly struggle. Chloe lunged once more, her hands wrapping around Lily's throat. "Say goodbye to your perfect little life." Lily gasped, choking, her vision fading. Then her hand found the photo on the floor, the one Chloe had left, the one marked Macting, "You took my life." She gripped it tight, her eyes filling with tears, not fear, but resolve. With the last of her strength, she jammed the sharp corner of the photo frame into Chloe's neck. Blood spattered across the sheets. Chloe's grip loosened. She staggered backward, eyes wide in shock, then collapsed. Lily fell to her knees, coughing, shaking uncontrollably. Nurses rushed to her, pulling her away as officers checked Chloe's pulse. One of them looked up. "She's gone." Lily's body trembled, with relief and horror all at once. "Is Ethan?" The nurse's voice was gentle. "They're working on him. Stay here." But Lily couldn't. She stumbled into the hall, down the stairs, past shouting officers and flashing lights until she burst through the emergency doors. Rain began to fall. Light, cleansing rain. She dropped beside Ethan's still body as paramedics worked frantically. "Please," she whispered, grabbing his hand. "You can't leave me. Not now. Not after everything." A medic shouted, "We've got a pulse." Lily sobbed in disbelief, pressing her forehead to his hand. "You hear that, Ethan? You're not done saving us." As the rain washed away the blood and ash of their torment, Sheriff Dalton arrived, his voice firm. "It's over, Lily. She can't hurt you anymore." Lily looked at Ethan being lifted onto the stretcher, his chest rising weakly but steadily. "She didn't win," she said softly. "Not this time." But as they wheeled him inside, no one noticed the cell phone in Chloe's pocket, its screen still glowing with an incoming message that read, "Phase 2 in motion. Finish the job." The rain stopped by morning. The first golden rays of sunlight broke through the hospital windows, touching the quiet room where Ethan lay. Machines beeped softly, steady and strong. Lily sat beside him, Daniel asleep in her arms, the world finally still after months of chaos. She looked at his face, pale but peaceful, and whispered, "You did it, Ethan. You brought us back to life." His eyelids fluttered, and he exhaled a slow, shaky breath. "I couldn't let her win," he murmured weakly. Lily smiled through her tears. "She didn't. None of them did." The door opened. Sheriff Dalton stepped in, his expression tired but relieved. "We've confirmed it's over." The message on Chloe's phone led to an abandoned motel outside of town. Whoever was helping her is gone. No sign of anyone since the fire. Lily frowned. "Gone? You think they'll come back?" Dalton shook his head. "They won't. Whatever she planned died with her." "You're free now, Lily." The words hit her like sunlight, warm, unfamiliar, but real. "Free," she repeated softly, as if testing the sound. Dalton nodded, tipping his hat. "You two deserve peace. Hold on to it this time." Then he left them alone, closing the door gently behind him. For a while, there was only silence, a peaceful kind, filled with breathing and the soft hum of the world moving on. Lily kissed Daniel's forehead and placed him in the bassinet beside the bed. Ethan opened his eyes fully, his voice rough but certain. "What happens now?" She took his hand, smiling faintly. "Now we start over. Somewhere new. No more running, no more fear." He studied her for a moment. "You'd leave everything behind?" She laughed softly. "What's left to leave? Everything that mattered is right here." Ethan squeezed her hand, the faintest spark of his old strength returning. "Then wherever you go, I'll follow." Weeks passed. The world healed slowly, as did they. Ethan's wounds faded, leaving scars that told their story. Lily found work at a small design shop near the edge of town. The town people called her the miracle woman, the one who survived fire, betrayal, and madness, yet still smiled. One quiet evening, as the sun dipped low, Ethan joined her on the porch. Daniel crawled across the wooden boards, giggling. Lily's hand rested on her belly, a new life beginning inside her. Proof that love could grow even after so much pain. Ethan wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "Hard to believe it's really over," he said. She leaned into him. "It's not over, it's just beginning." They watched the horizon turn gold and crimson, the world finally at peace. The old ghosts had burned away with the past, leaving only light and promise. Lily whispered, "Do you think people can truly start again?" Ethan smiled. "If anyone can, it's you." She rested her head against his chest, the rhythm of his heartbeat matching the quiet hum of the earth around them. For the first time, there were no sirens, no screams, just life. And as Daniel's laughter echoed across the porch and the sun dipped below the fields, Lily closed her eyes and breathed deeply, whispering to the child within her, "You'll never know cages or fear, only love." Because from the ashes of cruelty, they had built something stronger, a forever. So, that's how our story finally ends. But maybe, my friend, if you're still here right now, something in this journey has touched your heart too, hasn't it? You see, life can break us, but it also has a strange way of rebuilding us, stronger, softer, and wiser. Like the Stoics said, what stands in the way becomes the way. Pain isn't the end, it's the teacher that shapes who we become. Lily and Ethan's story reminds us that no matter how dark it gets, love, courage, and forgiveness can pull us back into the light. Maybe that's what you needed to hear today, that healing is possible, even after everything. If this story stirred something in you, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Because maybe, just maybe, someone out there needs this reminder too, that every ending can be a new beginning.